Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for a little bit of technical difficulties here. As you can see, we have a brand new open here, courtesy of our good friends at Black Cats NYC. We welcome you to episode number 48 of the Primetime Rundown right here on the Eastern Observer and on the I-95 Sports Network Zinco Channel 198 alongside my guys Ian Schraier, Rob DeLuca. I'm Joey Jarzynka. We cannot thank you enough for joining us here on this Friday night. Fellas, good to see you. And how's your weeks been? How has your week been? We're all over the place. How are things, guys?
Well, Joey, the weather's been actually, considering we're still in the thick of January, it's been quite nice here on the island. I don't know about Rob in New Jersey, but it's been quite nice here, and not complaining, trying to keep as little snow away from us as possible. But at the same time, so excited about that open. It looks great.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, for those that are not watching and are currently listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and also Google Podcasts, you do not see what the new open is, but definitely take a peek on our website because we've got it there. Rob DeLuca, how are you, buddy?
It was a good week. It was a bit of a quiet week on the sports side, but we're gonna manage to bring everyone the content that they deserve. And you know what? We always bring a great show, and now we have a great open on top of that great show. So how can things really be any better?
Well, I mean, we have to start off with some breaking news and some unfortunate news as well, because one of the greatest baseball players of all time by the name of Hank Aaron passed away this morning at the age of 86 years old. I mean, again, it is really just... It is heartbreaking because of we just saw him a couple of weeks ago. He had gotten his COVID vaccine. He was ready to go, all smiles and everything along those lines. And he's gone nearly 2 weeks later. And it's unfortunate to see 2021 continuing to we are plagued with death. And I hate to say that. So honestly and truthfully, it's just, it stings, and it continues to go into the sports world as well. And Hank Aaron has just fallen victim, to the new decade of just not many people surviving. Ian, let's start with you here, because Hank Aaron is one I'm assuming that you grew up, idolizing, watching, etc. And, or mainly idolizing, and to see him go, what does that mean for you?
Well, unfortunately, I never got to see him play. I think that's something that if I was alive in the 60s and 70s, it's something I, would have really appreciated. And I can only at this point look back on the memories of Hank Aaron. And Joey, you're right. This just continues a long line of unfortunate death that we've seen that's carried over from the year 2020 into the year 2021. And, a couple of weeks ago, we saw the death of, or I should say we heard about the death of Tommy Lasorda. And now here's the death of Hank Aaron, and just another icon, another baseball legend. And what even more so in Hank Aaron's case was that he was just such he was a black hero in a time of civil unrest. I mean, you think about the time in which Hank Aaron was playing in baseball. I mean, this was the time of the civil rights movement, time when this country was first being introduced into integration within schools, and just the great images now that we can look back on him, the image of him hitting home run number 715 and rounding second base with the two fans, running onto the field back when you actually could run onto the field, I guess, without getting arrested. And running, along each side of him, or the picturesque image of Hank Aaron at the Home Run Derby in 1999, when he was there as a way, because he wanted to see Mark McGwire for himself and Sammy Sosa when they were going through the whole home run chase only a year earlier. And then Mark McGwire breaks what at the time was the single-round home run record for the Derby. I mean, baseball, the world in general, just lost an icon. It's just, again, it just extends that long line of death that we've seen so far in professional sports over the last 365 plus days. It just has to end.
Yeah, I mean, this is not something we wanted obviously you don't want to hear about. We literally just got over Tommy Lasorda not 2 weeks ago, and now we're looking at another icon in baseball just taken away from us far too soon.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know the man was 86 years old and Tommy Lasorda was in his 90s, but nonetheless, you never want to hear about it. And unfortunately, Ian said it very well. I mean, just what he did for the game of baseball. It's tough, and it's at this point you just got to ask yourself, when is this decade going to let up? It's literally just started, and it's pretty much kicking us while we're down.
Yeah, it's starting off on a horrific note, to say the least. And you look at what Hank Aaron had accomplished baseball wise. He began his debut, or he began his baseball career April 13th, 1954 for the Milwaukee Braves. His last MLB appearance was October 3rd, 1976 for the Milwaukee Brewers. As we know, he was an icon down in Atlanta once Milwaukee moved to Atlanta to continue their run as the Braves. He had a batting average of .305, had 3,771 career hits. He was the home run leader until 2007, once Barry Bonds secured that new title, obviously with an asterisk next to it, but he did have 755 career home runs. And also he had 2,297 runs batted in. He was also a part of the Negro Leagues as well, the Indianapolis Clowns, 1952. Do not forget, folks, he was also a 25-time All-Star. 25 times consecutively from 1955 to 1975. He did not miss a single All-Star game that in his time in the major leagues. He was a World Series champion in 1957, named National League MVP that year, 3-time Gold Glove Award winner from 1958 to 1960 consecutively, 2-time National League batting champion, 1956, 1959, as well as holding MLB records in the following categories: RBIs, 2,297, career total bases, 6,856, also career extra base hits at 1,477, and he was a Hall of Famer, first ballot, 97.8% of the tally in 1982. There's no doubt about it that he will be missed, as well as throughout the baseball community. We also do come to you with more breaking news here this evening, or late afternoon, if you will, where we did hear that there will be some shakeups in terms of television. And this is some big news for those that do watch sports television a lot, where NBCSN will be dissolving come the end of the calendar year of 2021. And the reason why we brought this up here, ladies and gentlemen, is because you look at, as we are a National Hockey League, we talk about it all the time, and there are other sports on there that they do cover. And we talk about college basketball. We don't talk about the A10, but they have a contract with NBC. And actually, very funny, just a few weeks ago, the A10 and Comcast actually agreed on a deal to continue their partnership on NBCSN. So I don't know how that's going to work out, where we're going to see the A10 on USA Network, which is where we've heard some things where, well, it could be that all of the NBCSN programming is going to go on to USA. And from the articles that we've read thus far, again, this is all speculation. This is all things that we have seen early on in the early going. The National Hockey Leagues, their television contract is up at the end of the 2021 season, which will be at the end of July, you would figure. So we don't know exactly what the deal is, where things are going to go, also where the talent is going to go to. And the two people that I look at the most here on a National Hockey League level, actually three people. Now, well, let's call it two, because Brendan Burke has a job with MSG just in case. But I look at John Forsland. I also look at Catherine Tappan. And the reason why I look at John Forsland is because he did not pursue a National Hockey League team job following his, mutual breakup with the only team that he's ever known in the Carolina Hurricanes / Hartford Whalers. And he was supposed to be the #1 broadcaster on there, or 1A or 1B, if you will. So this one to me stings as a broadcaster myself. And you've heard also people out there listening that you've heard that there has been no talk whatsoever of this ever occurring. And you've also heard that that everyone in there that has now heard about it, all employees of Comcast, are completely shocked about it. Ian, as a sports information person, and obviously, you know, we can't really combine or connect the two, sports information and television, but we can compare jobs. And I think, you know, just occupations, period. Sports information and television, it's all in the sports area. And to be basically slapped on the back of the head and say, okay, by the end of 2021, some people are most likely not going to have jobs. What does that tell you about Comcast as a whole? Because to me, that seems like a little bit of upper tier issues, if you will.
Well, I don't know if it's whether or not you want to say maybe it's a Comcast issue at the top, Joey. This is just the loss of thousands of jobs for a network that has dedicated itself to the promotion of the National Hockey League for the better part of 2 decades. It's not just the play-by-play talent. It's not just the in-studio talent. It's the guys in the truck. It's the production assistants. It's the camera operators. It's everyone involved that has helped to make NHL on NBC what it is today. I mean, look, I remember when I was 15, 16 years old, still watching the NHL on ABC and watching Gary Thorne and John Davidson and watching that network carry hockey for many years. But, you know, for the better part of my formative years, it's hard for me through my 20s and 30s not to recognize NBC as the carrier of hockey and potentially not be going forward. I mean, hockey has been the sport that has piloted this network for as long as it has. I mean, you look at back, a decade ago, maybe more, when it was Outdoor Life Network, and then Outdoor Life Network became Versus.
Yes.
And then Versus was finally picked up by NBC as NBC Sports Network. So, after ABC, or I should say ESPN, Disney, whatever you want to call it, decided to cancel their contract with hockey because they felt they were getting no ratings, they decided to find somebody else to pick up, and pretty much the NHL for their national broadcast was literally dropped on a cable network that nobody cared about. So unless you followed one of your local teams, whether you followed the Rangers and Islanders on MSG, or you followed the Bruins on Nesson, or you followed the Maple Leafs and the Canadiens on Sportsnet in Canada, it doesn't matter. Like they were pretty much left for dead. And play-by-play now, NBC picked up the loose pieces, especially after NBC lost Sunday afternoon football, and turned it into its baby. And it's just, even though ESPN now wants to come back, it appears that's really the case here, is the fact that NBC's contract with the NHL is expiring at the end of this year. There's been no talks as to whether or not they're going to re-up. And the rumor is that ESPN now wants back in. So, I don't know if NBC, considering they already have Sunday Night Football, want to mess with the amount of money maybe that ESPN is going to throw towards the NHL. So it's just a sad day. It's a sad day for NBC Sports just because of how long they've had the NHL and the product that they've developed over the course of that time.
But not only that, Ian, just to piggyback off of that too, the worst part also is that, obviously you brought up about the loss of jobs, and we're now in an age where streaming is really the key, and we're starting to see multiple things pop up along the network area. Peacock now is NBC's form of streaming, of a streaming service. ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, CBS All Access, Fox Now. Right. There are so many things. There are so many different outlets and options now that these people can really take away from and really utilize. And the sad part is that now it looks to me, and the way it is that, and I'm sure DeLuca and Ian, both of you know this very well with your fandom of EPL and all of the soccer leagues across the pond, but. To see that, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see other networks that could be dark horses eventually making their way into the conversation for the fourth highest professional sports league in this country. Rob DeLuca, you are a member or an employee of Disney, ABC, ESPN, and really Mickey Mouse as a whole. For you to see this as, as a production assistant you are, and put yourself, I guess, in someone else's shoes, if this were to happen to you, how difficult would that be?
This is not good for NBC. This is going to be a tough loss. I do believe, I have no insider information on this whatsoever. This is purely my own speculation. I do believe the NHL is now done with NBC with the dissolving of NBC Sports Network. I do not think the NHL will return to this. They're going to be on USA until if NBCSN dissolves any sooner than the end of the calendar year. You never know. Sometimes things speed up. Sometimes things slow down. Yeah. You just never know. So, but yeah, it seems like it would move to USA Network if the NHL decides to renew the TV deal. I do not believe that is what's going to happen, because I think NBC ticked them off during negotiations, because NBC said, look, we want to put some of these games on Peacock exclusively, like they have done with the EPL. And honestly, that's hurting the EPL as a whole in ratings, personally, because there are a lot of fans in America here that just refuse to pay the extra money to see their game, to see their teams play. And first of all, the main basis of the EPL is in England, where NBC doesn't even exist. So it's almost irrelevant to even try this. The NHL, on the other hand, it's all here and it's all in Canada, but Canada does not have NBC, so they don't need Peacock either. So this you're pretty much at a state where it's just like, why would you try to mess with it? Why not just say, okay, we'll put everything on US? Like, now they have to go back to if they go back to the negotiation table, they're like, fine, everything will stay on USA Network, a cable network that everyone gets. But I don't see it. I think you're going to have to look at these other candidates. You're going to have to look at, like my employer, Disney, ABC, ESPN, because they already do have a partial deal with ESPN Plus. Now, granted, there's also a paywall, much like Peacock, but the difference is the deal already exists. So it would make a little more sense for Disney to swoop in and just take the whole thing, because you never know what you could get. You could also get, these days professional sports like to cater to children. We saw that with the NFL on Nickelodeon just a week ago. So maybe if Disney swoops in, you get some amateur broadcasters and you put a game on Disney Channel, with like them weird special effects that Nickelodeon did. Same thing, it could all work itself out that way. That's also why I believe CBS, Viacom, a very, very dark horse suitor, because of their ties to Nickelodeon. You could put an NHL game
and Rob.
Nickelodeon.
And Rob, maybe if that's the case, they put the game on Disney Channel, they could bring back the glowing puck from Fox as well.
Now, Ian, that's a great point, because Fox could also be a suitor. And here's the thing: they already have. Do they still have the rights to the glowing puck? They very well might.
Mm-hmm. No, and you have to also remember what this does as well for NBC as a whole. I mean, aside from Sunday Night Football, you're putting almost all of your EPL programming now on Peacock, which is a subscription-based app. After that, you have what? I mean, what did we used to see on NBC Sportsnet? You would see the occasional, I feel like every night I turned on NBC at midnight, you had your car auctioning. You had
American Ninja Warrior, their top show, I think, at this point.
I mean, you have occasionally, I mean, they have some golf rights. Occasionally, they'll have a couple of NASCAR races. But for the most part, when you look at professional sports as a whole, NBC once had baseball. Baseball's now been owned by Fox since 1998 fully. So they, the full Fox family has baseball. NBC, until they brought in Sunday Night Football, gave away their football rights, and as a result of, because they didn't want to pay for football and they brought back Sunday Night Football, that's when they bought the XFL, and when they teamed up with the XFL in 2000 to broadcast the XFL. They no longer have rights to the NBA. We know where we hear the theme song to the NBA on NBC now. Yeah, it's Fox Sports theme song for college basketball. So you look at where potentially NBC can go. I mean, it's scary enough that 2021 could be possibly the last year we ever see the Stanley Cup final on NBC, and it seems very well evident that it's going to be. And granted, if ESPN picks it up, I'd be very excited for the potential return of Gary Thorne. But There could be some real dark days ahead for NBC Sport, really.
Oh, it's definitely not great, and I'm with you about that. There's nothing I would love more than to see now Baltimore Orioles play-by-play man Gary Thorne return to the NHL if it does, in fact, go back to ESPN, ABC. That man is an icon in the sport of hockey forever. It does not matter that he has not been in the NHL since, I would say, post-lockout even. So it would just be a great thing to see.
And don't forget, DeLuca, also, he was also the voice of the NHL video game as well, too.
Oh, yeah, 100%, yeah.
He was there for,
I remember that.
Yeah, he was the voice for, oh my gosh.
NHL 09. NHL 09 to like,
was it 09?
14.
Because it's one before then. Well, because also, don't forget, Doc Emmerich also was the voice there for a while as well.
Doc Emmerich was from NHL 15 to 19.
3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah, 15 to 18, actually.
Yeah. So, and on top of it, fellas, too, we also looked at, they also have the Golf Channel as well. And I think that will be exactly what Ian said, that I believe that there will be some dark days ahead, too. From what I've read as well, NASCAR also does not have a contract past, I believe, the next 2 or 3 years with NBC. So most likely, if you think about it, they might go to Fox full time, because the way that it works is that years ago it was NASCAR on Fox until I believe June, and then TNT took it over for about a month, and then ESPN took it over towards the end of the year, and then once the contracts with TNT and ESPN expired, then NBC bought both of those out and started right after June, or worked a deal out with Fox. So who knows? Maybe that could be a thing, or maybe CBS again could come in as a dark horse. Listen, I think that'd
be a great play. Yeah, that'd be a great play, because they just lost college football rights. That's very
exactly. Yep. The SEC is now going to be on ABC and ESPN, I believe, starting in 2024. Correct me if I'm wrong, DeLuca, in that range.
I think you're on the right track here. Yeah, because internally, there have been no rumblings about us picking up the SEC for next season as of now. But
yeah,
Rob, would they have, in theory, by the time the SEC transitions to ESPN, in theory, they would have broadcast rights for every Power 5 conference in the country?
That's correct.
Yeah, because Fox and ESPN share the Big 12 and Big 10, right?
And they also have the Pac-12 too, Fox.
Yeah,
that's correct. They do share. Yep. They do share. But Big 10 is mostly Fox. Like the big games in the Big 10 always end up on Fox.
Yeah, it really, and again, to conclude this segment here, it's very evident that the dark days are ahead for sure, because who knows? We look at what the U.S. Open for golf was on Fox after a while, and then they had some problems there. Then they completely terminated that contract, went to NBC. So after really Sunday Night Football, which is their marquee program, and if NASCAR does not re-up with them, which I'm going to venture to say most likely is not the case, because you look at a majority of the other races in the Camping World Truck Series, or the Gander Mountain Truck Series, or you look at the what is it called now? It used to be called the Nationwide Series, the number two racing tier. They are most of the time, if not all of the time, on NBCSN. And I'm going to venture to say that those people might not take that trek to USA in the middle of your program, or of your program guide, because, you'd have to look near TBS or wherever it is. And, and again, I'm not really a television junkie, but, whenever I do want to go on TV, I always know that ESPN and NBCSN are right in that little same range. And, for those that have no patience, which I know there are people out there that are like me that don't have it, they don't want to look. They just want to find exactly where it is, head to the TV. It's going to be a big problem, in my opinion. And so NBCSN will no longer be on your television dials starting in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep moving forward here. For those that are just joining us, we cannot thank you enough. It is 6:25 here on the East Coast, 3:25 on the West. It is episode number 48 of the Primetime Rundown. We are live right here on the Eastern Observer, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and iHeartRadio, alongside my guys Ian Schraier, Rob DeLuca. I'm Joey Jarzynka. We've got so much to talk about in the world of football as well, because Tampa Bay and Green Bay are going at it at Lambeau Field. That is the first time that there has been an NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field since when, Giants fans? Tell us. Ian and Rob, I'll let you do the honors.
2007.
That's right. The 2007 season.
You see now,
2008, a beautiful, beautiful time.
Now to
Lawrence Tynes can't make 2 chippy field goals, but he can make one from 48. That's not a problem.
That's right.
Now for those that are listening and not watching, they did not see Rob DeLuca give a little wink there following that. And for all the Eagles fans, all the other fans watching out there, you can probably turn us off now because you are disgusted that the New York Giants were the last team before Tom Brady to play at Lambeau on Championship Sunday.
And then who did the Giants beat, coincidentally, the year that they beat Green Bay in the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
Funny how times work.
It's really crazy how time flies, doesn't it?
Oh, my goodness. I
can't believe that game is 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Joey, we got old.
Listen, I remember exactly where I was to that game. I was down the block at my best friend Angelo's house, and we were watching the game, and they're big Giants fans, and I was there, and I was saying, I was like, guys, this is not going to be, this is not a game that the Giants are going to win, and I knew that I would have, my phone would be blowing up after that, and they would be like, oh, the Giants are better than the Eagles, yada yada yada. And all of a sudden, I remember that, and I remember I was sitting there doubled over in the fetal position with my hands over my face, and they were ecstatic. Obviously, it was bedlam at the Menino household, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, I really need to go home. I need to go down the block because this is an environment that's not for me.
Is that before or after the Corey Webster interception, Joey?
That was, I believe, before. I believe that was before. My goodness. Tampa Bay, Green Bay, 3:05 Sunday East, 3:05 p.m. Sunday on Fox. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers' first trip to the NFC Championship at Lambeau Field. Let's not forget, he has a 1-3 record, all on the road. 6 touchdowns, 7 picks. We know the last time that he was in the NFC Championship. That was last year at San Francisco, and he played like absolute poo-poo. Okay, we know that very well. And again, as we did say, 1-3 record. The last time that he did make it to the Super Bowl was 2010 against Pittsburgh when they won at AT&T Stadium when they were open for only 2 years. Rob DeLuca, I want to start with you here. I know, obviously, in all of our picks here, we all chose Green Bay, okay? But at the same time here, this is big news if Tampa Bay wins because we'll let you finish that sentence.
Nothing, if Tampa Bay comes into Lambeau Field and Tom Brady does what he's done for the last 20-plus years, which is a whole lot of magic. We can't sugarcoat it. He's a magical quarterback. He's very old now, but that he got his team to the NFC Championship game, so he's clearly still got something left in the tank here. So, but yeah, if Tampa Bay's able to pull this off, it will be the first time ever that a NFL team, gets to play in the Super Bowl in their own stadium. 55 Super Bowl. This is the 55th Super Bowl. 54 Super Bowls prior to this. No team has ever hosted a Super Bowl before.
Right. And listen, we don't want to say that they hosted because of course the NFL would go in, they would go among great lengths to make sure that Tampa Bay does not host it.
Right. Yeah.
And it would be, and
they're also a 5 seed. They'd be called the road team anyway. So
right. Exactly. And on top of it also was that they most likely would not get to be in their home locker room because they are the home, because they are not the home team.
They wouldn't be the home team. No.
And on top of it too, we remember this a few years ago when the Eagles and the Vikings were playing, when the Vikings were only 60 minutes, or excuse me, when they were only 48 minutes away, okay, from hosting the Super Bowl, okay, in their own building. Obviously, we know how that ended, Super Bowl 52 in US Bank Stadium, but they were the last team that came close to that.
That's right. So,
and now Tampa is again another 60 minutes away from doing just the same. Ian Schraier, Again, we know that Green Bay is an absolute freight train, as you put it. Can they be stopped?
Yeah, I think they can be, but I don't know if it's going to happen in the NFC Championship game. I know that these, and my predictions say so. I know I took Green Bay, but these two teams met earlier in the regular season. Tampa Bay actually cruised in that game at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa by the score of 38-10.
Yeah.
This was in week 6 at the time, so we're talking back October. At this point, Aaron was held to 160 passing yards, 2 interceptions he threw in that game. The Green Bay Packers have become a totally different team in that time, and so have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look, the Buccaneers did not play all that great against Washington. They narrowly escaped Washington in the wild card round with a win. They went up against an ailing Drew Brees in the divisional round, and I'm not saying that Tampa Bay just skated by. That really wouldn't be the case at all.
No.
But I think this is the first time, and we've been saying this for weeks, guys, where we have said that the NFC, the whole season, has pretty much been wide open, and I think that kind of comes to a close here. Even though Brady has a comfortability of playing in the cold, he's done it before. He's done it his whole career up in Foxborough. This is a team that it's going to be more important. It's not even going to be, even though this is a game, or I should say a postseason meeting, Brady versus Rodgers, something we've never seen before. This is a postseason meeting, 13 years in the making. So if the Packers would have beaten the Giants, we would have saw Brady versus Rodgers back in 2007 as the Super Bowl. But for Tampa Bay, the key is going to be on defense, more importantly. Can they stop Rodgers? Can they stop right now what is a very threatening running game in Aaron Jones? Because Tampa Bay has the #1 rush defense in all of the NFL. So if they can contain their running game and just focus so much on Aaron Rodgers, well, then you kind of have to focus on Devontae Adams. And then on top of that, from an offensive perspective, Tom Brady, can he continue to defeat Father Time? We saw what happened last year in the playoffs against Tennessee. He just did not look like the same quarterback. We were all ready to dress him up as old man Brady, and look, he's got the Buccaneers right now in the NFC Championship game. Offensively, to continue the point, is that the Buccaneers Green Bay has one of the worst rush defenses in the league. So Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones should actually kind of have their way with Green Bay's defense. It's a matter of whether or not, if they even get into a shootout, can Tampa Bay's defense shut down Aaron Rodgers?
Well, so I'm going to continue this right before we get to DeLuca. And the next thing that I want to say too is, and I'm just going to put in a tiny little point here, and this is something that Ian said earlier, where Tom Brady he's known for this. He's known for under the bright lights. He's able to come in the clutch and just perform beyond expectation. But this is a team that is based in the South, okay? And the majority of these players have never been in this situation. Yes, how much can Tom Brady take 53, including himself, players, and carry them on his back and go over the finish line and beat Aaron Rodgers and the rest of the Green Bay Packers who have been in this situation before? And when I say in this situation, I'm talking about the cold. Okay. This is a different cold that most people can understand.
Joey,
okay?
if I may, just real quick. Please. To be fair, we did say that last week, and it was almost 40 degrees in Green Bay.
Well,
Mother Nature works in mysterious ways.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, and from what we've heard, preliminary weather reports in Green Bay last week, I remember Mike Tirico on NBC kept saying that preliminary reports were saying that the way it's going to look next week, which now obviously next week is in 2 days, is going to be a 35. I think it's a 35% chance of no snow or something like that. So it's obviously the odds are favoring snow. As we're now looking at the weather forecast here for Sunday, it looks to be like it's going to be a high of 30 with winds about 10 miles an hour and a field temperature of about 25, mainly cloudy with snow showers around the morning. And chance of snow is about 60%. And also, let's not forget, the temperature is going to drop as the day goes on with a low of 13 degrees. And again, that does not include a field temperature of about 7 with the wind chill. So, and the reason why, again, I bring this up here is because Tom Brady is used to this. He's used to playing in the cold in Foxborough, but the rest of his team is not. And really, again, I just think that, and let's not forget, to the both of you here, Vita Vea is coming back, and he was made official too. So I think that the case for Tampa Bay just keeps getting better, because if Tom Brady can just, if he can take all 53 players on his back, including himself, and beat Aaron Rodgers with a subpar 1-3 record, 6 touchdowns, 7 picks in 4 career NFC Championship games, Tom Brady's gonna go. He's gonna go home, and he's gonna host the Super Bowl.
Look, Joey, I'm not taking anything away from. I think there's absolutely, and I don't just say this for any team. I think there is a possibility that Tampa Bay, and a strong one, that Tampa Bay could go into Green Bay and pull out an upset and play in the Super Bowl. However, I just think Green Bay has been such an unstoppable force offensively. If this game, if this game is any bit what it was back in early October, then we're probably having a totally different discussion next week leading into the Super Bowl, saying, wow, I mean, Tampa Bay should knock off Kansas City or Buffalo, and let's just crown Brady with another championship. I just think Green Bay is I just think Green Bay is just everything has been set up for Rodgers to win that second title at this point. They're not great defensively, but even if you get into a shootout with this team, Rodgers has so many weapons right now that are just performing all too well. I mean, after Devontae Adams, you have Alan Lazard, you have a two-headed monster in the backfield right now with Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. And then let's not forget that Aaron Rodgers also knows how to be mobile and use his feet and run for first downs and create and keep plays alive with his legs. They've been averaging as many points as they have just because of how well they're creating, how well Matt LaFleur's offense is working. And I just find it hard that at Lambeau, with fans in the stand, even though Brady has played under these bright lights before, he knows what it takes to win. I'm still, even in the NFC Championship game, I'm still not sold on that Tampa Bay defense. Let's see them go out and beat Aaron Rodgers. If that happens, I'll be here next week telling you that the Buccaneers are going to win the Super Bowl, and you can
front seven is the only thing, in my opinion, that will be a tough task for Aaron Rodgers. But again, as I did say, aside from Tom Brady, who else has played in that subterranean temperature? Not many people on that roster. The last time that these two teams squared off, Tampa Bay won 38-10 inside Raymond James Stadium. So obviously a completely different atmosphere. Where it was most likely, we don't even know, I think it was around like 80 degrees around that time. So again, about a 60-degree difference from October to now in January. As we know, Tom Brady has 32 career playoff wins, twice as many as the next closest QB in NFL history, Joe Montana, who has finished his career with 16, not has. He's been retired for a long time. But also looking on the flip side, guys, with Kansas City and Buffalo, this is a team that, or these are a pair of teams that we saw last week that it was the Henne show towards the end. And I can't believe I'm saying this because Chad Henne was the one to secure the victory against the Cleveland Browns. And they looked like that there could have been a massive upset once Patrick Mahomes went down with a concussion, and he couldn't get up. Patrick Mahomes. Now he's cleared.
It's I could tell you this. I work with a Buffalo Bills fan, and I was talking to him on Thursday and said, I could only imagine what your reaction was when you saw Mahomes go down with that injury and you weren't sure whether or not he was getting up. And then the idea of an AFC Championship game instead of at Arrowhead comes back to Buffalo, and you play Baker for the AFC title game in Buffalo at home. But Mahomes has been cleared to play. So, look, I know a lot of analysts right now are making a big deal out of whether or not he's, and understandably so, as to whether or not he's going to be able to be mobile. Okay, if you look at the Buffalo-Baltimore game last week, there was nothing Buffalo did offensively that was that impressive. I thought Josh Allen had by far one of his worst games. Granted, okay, Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals. a lot of it had to do with the weather inside that stadium on that day, at night no less. So it's even colder. In that lake effect like weather. It's not ideal weather conditions, but these are weather conditions Josh Allen has been playing in now for 3 years. I mean, if at this point in December you don't know how to play in the frigid cold of Buffalo with the winds whistling through Western New York, I don't know what to tell you at this point. If not for a pick six,
and that's not fun up there. That's not fun.
Yeah, if not for a pick six, maybe does somehow Baltimore. I mean, considering where the pick six took place, he intercepted it in the end zone. I mean, at that point, Buffalo was driving on the field in the red zone, ready to score the game-tying touchdown, if not for the interception return for a touchdown that made it 17-3. The difference between Patrick Mahomes this week for Buffalo and Lamar Jackson last week for Buffalo is that Lamar needs his mobility to produce offense. That is not the case with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, to me, everything with it's like a huge shopping receipt. Like it's like you went to the store and bought $200 worth of groceries and you're still filing through the receipt because these are all the things that Patrick Mahomes is able to do. And the one thing that, we look back on the Super Bowl last year where he was scrambling for what felt like 2 minutes before launching that ball to Tyreek Hill to call game. Yeah. Mahomes has the ability to throw in the pocket. Like if they can continually give Mahomes a clean pocket, what really Buffalo's key to the game defensively this Sunday is going to be is they're going to have to play some sort of soft zone. You can't decide we're going to double Kelsey or we're going to double Tyreek Hill and that'll leave guys like Hardman open. At some point, you're going to have to play a soft zone. You can only try to contain Travis Kelsey so much. You can only try to contain Tyreek Hill so much. The idea is you really have to institute more or less a bend but don't break defense, where Mahomes is going to move the ball downfield on you offensively and just hope you can hold them to Harrison Butker field goals. If not, what's going to happen is they're going to get, again, very similar to what we just said is my point for the Green Bay Tampa Bay game, is that if they get stuck in, put into a shootout, I'm not so sure if Buffalo can survive that.
DeLuca, we'll leave this. We'll get you in here.
Look, this is going to be a great game. All right, these are two very good teams. They proved it all season long. I'm very excited that Patrick Mahomes has been cleared to play because that makes it that much better of a game. It definitely makes it a closer game. Because personally, from what I saw from Chad Henne on last week was nothing. So,
come on, listen. Let me tell you something.
Let's be real. He did nothing. He ran for one.
You cannot. No one can. And I will put this down into law right now. You cannot tell me that Chad Henne's mobility came to life for one play and stunned the entire National Football League.
That play was great. Oh no, that play
on Sunday.
That's the only play that
it doesn't matter. That was the game.
Didn't even get them the first down.
He was also short too, so it's because of the guts that Andy Reid had to actually go for it instead of attempting a draw off sides. He literally had the guts to actually do it and say, you know what? Let's make it seem like we're going to draw them off sides, but in reality, we're going to run the play anyway. And thrown to Tyreek Hill, and he gets the first down and sends the Chiefs to the AFC Championship game.
But Rob, to Chad Henne's credit, you can't also, and this also belabors on Joey's point a little bit as well, is where you can't tell me that Chad Henne at any point of that game thought he was going in there into that.
Oh, absolutely. No, there's no way his mindset was that.
He was never taking first team rep in practice.
Yeah, 100%.
He went out there in the midst of a one possession game in the fourth quarter, and Andy Reid handed him the ball and said, "You go win us a football game."
And you know what? To his credit, he did.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: I don't think he'd be able to do it against this Bills team on Sunday. That was my point, is that he would have no shot. So that's with Mahomes back, this game's going to be a lot closer. It's going to be a great game, and I think it's going to be. I think it may just very well be an offensive shootout because Josh Allen had MVP considerations this year. It's obviously going to Aaron Rodgers, but he was in the hunt for a while there. So I think this is going to be very close, but I do believe that it will be Kansas City coming away with it, but close.
Guys, there's a few stats that scare me with Kansas City here. And I think one that Ian brought up last week was that each of the Chiefs' last 8 wins have been by 6 points or fewer. That includes the playoffs. That's the longest streak in NFL history. Okay. Now, again, I do believe that having 8 consecutive wins of 6 points or fewer is beyond remarkable because it just shows that your defense comes up with key stops at the end. Really great stuff. But then this is also something else that really scares me as well. Okay, so Kansas City has scored 22 points or fewer in 3 straight games, including the playoffs. That's another problem because when they usually average about between 25 and 30 points per game. And then here's another scary stat that and this is why I chose Buffalo as well. If you stop their number 1A target or their number 1 target in Travis Kelce, you might come out as the victor. Travis Kelce has fewer than 70 receiving yards in each of his 4 career games against Buffalo. So it shows that Buffalo is doing something right and has been able to contain Travis Kelce in the last 4 consecutive meetings. That, to me, is a big asterisk when it comes to winning because we know how Travis Kelce is the safety blanket. We know how Patrick Mahomes looks to his 2 guys. Obviously, he's able to, make everyone around him better on the, outside or in the slot or even the tight ends. But this here is the biggest one. And I'm going to throw away actually the 8 wins of fewer than 6 points piece because, we get that. But then I proved my point where I said the defense really comes up with the stops. But Travis Kelce there, if Buffalo can stop him, we are going to see another part that is going to be possibly 6 points or less in a potential win or even a loss. How much can Tyrann Mathieu do? Okay, let's also look back to John Brown as well, who has been escalating ever since his ankle injury. Okay, when we had Bradley Gelber on, when we had Brad Gelber on, he was talking about John Brown's emergence following his ankle injury, and all he kept doing was going up, up, and up. And every single time, including last week as well against Buffalo, I think he had one massive catch for I think it was like 60 or 70 yards. Great job. Yeah. He couldn't get it. He couldn't get into the end zone, but just coming away. And that was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, against Jimmy Smith. Okay. Now try and do that against a team with very subpar cornerbacks as well. And again, we also have not spoken about Stephon Diggs as well, who continuously has been who has been on the rise. I do believe that Cole Beasley will be shut down the entire game, but look out for John Brown because that is going to be, I believe, the key factor in this game. And go Bills. I'm not only rooting for them, but I'm also picking them to win by about, I will say, 7 points.
I think the pieces that are actually, or I should say the piece, I'll say pieces that are the most important for the Bills to win that game. We know what they can do defensively, but offensively, I'm not even going to say Josh Allen. Well, in theory, it's both a playoff Josh Allen. One is Gabriel Davis, their 4th round pick from this past year, who has really turned into a great number 2, if not number 3 wide receiver option. He's been more the number 2 option with Cole Beasley out. The number 2 piece is Devin Singletary. Ever since Zach Moss has gone out, I believe up until just about halftime, the Buffalo Bills had not run a single handoff to their running game against Baltimore last week. That has to change this week in order. Look, I know you might say I don't know about that, but I think that they have to establish some kind of running game to chew up the clock and create time of possession. Yeah. What Josh Allen did last week against Baltimore is not going to work against Patrick Mahomes. It's just not.
I'm saying no. I think I prematurely said I don't know about that. What I meant was, it was misunderstood. What I meant was that they're not going to run the ball because Zach Moss is out and he was their number 1 tailback. Okay, because
I'm talking about Devin.
Right.
Singletary.
No, I understand, but we also look at Devin Singletary, and he's been struggling throughout. He's been struggling throughout this whole season. He's had a sophomore slump like none other. And that's the part where I remember we brought in Brad Gelber, and I remember that was the question that I had asked him about the rushing attack. And I had said, if this team can go far they need to have some balance. And I remember he said, he was like, well, you know, I think that they can get there, but and they could potentially succeed, but that's not really a part of, you know, that's not really a part of their game because of whatever. But then I said, well, what if something were to happen? And I think right now they did have a, well, I don't want to call it balanced rushing attack with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, but now all the pressure goes on him. And that's a problem. That's the part where yes, Ian, I 100% agree with you, because
Buffalo,
now
the thing is last week is Lamar Jackson. What I don't even call him a shell of himself. He didn't perform well at all.
No, he didn't.
The whole Baltimore offense did not perform. Kansas City, look, the key to Kansas City, they have both. It's not even like they have to, you know, produce a certain way in order to win Sunday. They have Patrick Mahomes, and they have home field advantage with the fans in the crowd, with the fans in the stadium. So,
well, don't forget,
they don't even have to achieve both their keys. Both their keys are already in the game. The key for Buffalo is slowing down the offense and keeping Patrick Mahomes on the sidelines. In order to do that, based on the stats we've seen Josh Allen produce the last 2 weeks, they need to start running the ball. I realize that the struggle that Devin Singletary has had, but if Buffalo wants to win Sunday, they need to be able to run the ball.
Yeah, we don't even need to talk about stats there. That's just what you got. That's just how football works. If you want a shot at winning this game, you keep the best quarterback in the league on the sideline. So you got to keep that clock running. So they're gonna have to figure this out without question. I think they will. I think they will run the ball, but I think the Chiefs are just too much of a team for them on the offensive side of things. So the Chiefs will win very close, but in a very high-scoring game as well.
Like I'm not sure that a 150, 175-yard receiving game just for Stephon Diggs is going to cut it. I'm not so sure it does.
No,
it does.
I agree. I agree completely, and that's also that's the part where I also think that there's it's the part that if Buffalo can stop Travis Kelce, that is going to be the key. I think how much can you rely on Tyreek Hill? And you can, obviously. We've seen it. We've seen it happen all throughout this year and the last couple of years with the Mahomes to Hill chemistry and the connection, if you will. But this is a different build team that not only are we used to, but this team is so hot right now. I don't know if you can stop them. I do believe that Tre'Davious White is going to have an absolute awful day against Tyreek Hill. There's no doubt about it, because he's another one with a sophomore slump, and probably the worst player to have a sophomore slump against is going to be against Tyreek Hill, obviously. But for him to have a sophomore slump in the AFC Championship game, he's got to step it up big time.
Well, that's my follow-up point, is the fact that if you want to sit there and try to hold Travis Kelce to 70 yards receiving, you're going to have to start stacking guys a little more in the box or playing guys over the middle, which is going to leave man-on-man coverage between White and Tyreek Hill. It's not going to work out too well.
Yeah. Well, Kansas City versus Buffalo is the third playoff game since the 1970 merger between the two top players in receiving yards that regular season. The player who ranked second won both previous matchups. Guys, let's move. Say it again.
That would be Tyreek Hill, no?
Exactly, yes. So that's kind of where I was going to lead to in my next point. Guys, let's keep moving forward here, because we saw the final game of a legend in Drew Brees. And obviously it's not official yet, but Drew Brees completes his career with New Orleans and San Diego with the following numbers: 571 total touchdowns, second to Tom Brady, who currently sits at 581. He currently holds the record of passing yards and completions with 80,358 and 7,142 respectively. He's got one Super Bowl ring from Super Bowl 46 against Indianapolis and Peyton Manning. That
45. Super Bowl 45.
No, Super Bowl 46. 45 was
Super Bowl 46 was when the Giants beat the Patriots in 2011. You don't want to fight a Giants fan on this one. You do not want to fight a Giants fan on this one. It will not go well for you.
We are going to have to take a peek. And
Mr. Joey, I love you to death, but you don't fight the Giants fans on when they only got 4 rings. They know when their Super Bowls occurred, just like you know when your one occurred.
Let's take a peek and see the exact one here. with.
Well, I'll talk a little bit about Drew Brees while Joey looks that up. I mean, look, this is a legend. Obviously, he's really only known for being a saint, but he did start with the Chargers, and the Chargers ended up going in a different direction when they drafted.
44, my mistake. Go ahead, keep going.
44, yeah, but that's what it was. That was when Drew.
That was the Tracy Porter game.
Right. Yeah, that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but Drew Brees is a legend of the game. He's known as a saint. Obviously, when the Chargers went in a different direction, and they moved on, he found a home in New Orleans, and he will forever be number 9 in New Orleans. No one will ever wear number 9 in New Orleans again. Nobody will ever be Drew Brees again. Drew Brees is arguably a top 3 quarterback, top 5. I'll be nice and say top 5 of all time. This all time in football. There's only been so many quarterbacks. Drew Brees is definitely one of the best. He's not better than Tom Brady, but you know what? He makes a great debate to try to be number 2. I will carry that to the grave. You can debate me on it, but I will not waver from that. I think Drew Brees is arguably the second greatest quarterback to ever play football.
He was also Drew Brees, that is drafted by San Diego in the 2nd round, 32nd overall. Obviously, at one point was the 2nd pick, I believe, or the second. That was 32 overall. I believe it was 32 or 33 overall. 2nd round, wherever it was. I know he was a 2nd round pick in 2001 by San Diego, and then a couple of years later, after some controversy, when they drafted Eli Manning, traded him for Phillip Rivers. There was some issues there. He played his tail off, signed a 6-year deal, 6-year, $60 million deal with New Orleans. Just a couple of years later, there was some time that Miami wanted into the sweepstakes of Drew Brees, and ultimately he chose New Orleans, and then the rest is history. Guys, let's continue with Drew Brees here, because what have we seen throughout his whole career? And really, I hate to say it, guys, but me and DeLuca's childhood.
Yeah. Ian, I'll let you go since I kind of gave a little monologue.
That's Rob. I think Rob really touched on the points of what he has meant to all the fans that have watched him play throughout his career. When I think of Drew Brees and he started his career as a San Diego Charger, and in week 17 went down with what people thought was really going to be a career-ending injury. And the best part about it was, before he had signed his deal with the New Orleans Saints, was he was actually going to be a Miami Dolphin. And there was a head coach in Miami that year that said, "I don't want Drew Brees. The guy's going to be a complete bust." That head coach is now the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Nick Saban was the one who said he did not want Drew Brees in Miami. And look what Drew Brees has done in his career since that day. Look, give him his Boston Canton yesterday, please. I mean, the man is a class act in every way. He's football royalty. I mean, look, Rob, I'm not going to debate the point of whether or not, who's the best quarterback of all time. Is it Tom Brady? Is it Drew Brees? Is it Peyton Manning? I mean, look, we could have this discussion until we're blue in the face. I agree with you. I do think Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. I thought what made his story even better this year was the fact that his wife revealed the other day that not only did he play with a collapsed lung, not only did he play with an 11 fractured ribs, but also he played with a torn rotator cuff and a torn fascia in his foot. So you want to talk about just a resilient football player that loves to go out there every Sunday, play his heart out, never wants to come off the field. I mean, we saw the writing on the wall. We knew he couldn't sling the ball down the field anymore, but thankfully for his offense and the way his offense was built, he didn't really have to do that. Aside from Traquan Smith, who was his deep ball threat, Michael Thomas is a intermediate pass receiver. Same thing for a guy like Deontay Harris or Jared Cook. Like, he didn't have to throw the ball 30, 40 yards down the field anymore. He could pick up 15-yard chunks at a time, and look, it got them to the NFC division. It got them away the NFC Championship. But what bothers me most about Drew Brees' career is the fact that he didn't get the send-off that he deserved. Because of COVID-19 and because of this pandemic. for the most part, New Orleans Saints never had fans in the stands up until last weekend. And at that point, they had a very, very small percentage of fans. And even, you know, he didn't get the send-off he deserved where he could come back out to the 50-yard line and hundreds of thousands of screaming fans could be sitting there praising Drew Brees for the quarterback and the type of person he was for that franchise. Instead, he ran off the field, kind of gave a salute. But what I thought was even better, I mean, I want to say it would take the place of the salute, was the fact that after the game, even though we all saw on TV Drew and Tom shaking hands and congratulating each other on a great game, was the fact that after the game, the two of them came back and they shut the cameras off and the TV went to 60 minutes and CBS went to 60 minutes. Or I'm sorry, the game was on Fox. So, you know, they went to the OT. Fox went to its post-game coverage. Was that they the two of them came back out onto the field together, and Tom Brady was at and congratulated each other and wished them both, you know, well wishes. And the fact that Tom Brady was actually throwing the football around with Drew Brees' kids. It's just, it's two class acts getting together, two legends of the game, and just really two ambassadors of the game that I just can't wait to see what they do for this game in the future, because they're both legends. It's just great to see it.
It's a crime. It is a crime he only has one ring. It is an absolute crime.
Well, I will tell you this, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here, guys. Unfortunately, Drew Brees in a few performances, though, in the playoffs has been a little bit subpar. Yes, don't get me wrong. I will feel a little bit of empathy for him because his defenses the last few years. Listen, the defenses have been absolutely terrible, but at the same time, you know, he can only do so much. Okay.
Why do you have to be the voice of reason, Joey? Why do you have to be the
much to, you know, it was still, it was still pass interference. I don't know what you want from what you want.
Listen, yeah, you're right. I don't blame you, and that's what Nickel Roby-Coleman did. But you know, I digress. All I have to say though is that his post-football career is going to be television, and I don't want to call it wrapping up because we still got a little ways to go here, 2 minutes past the top of the hour. But about an hour ago, we were talking about NBC, how they were a little bit in flux in terms of their programming. Where did Drew Brees sign that contract before this season? He's going with NBC, but I mean, we don't know the deal. Listen, now that this happened, you don't know what the deal with NBC is and the NFL. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, but
time will tell. Time will tell.
Time will 100% tell, but that is something to watch for, because I wonder what Drew Brees' reaction was when he saw this too, because there's a lot of football programming on there as well. And that's usually something that you might not want to see when Drew Brees, they're trying to make him or breed him into the new Tony Romo of the of NBC. So we'll see what happens there, ladies and gentlemen. But let's keep moving forward here. And there was another send-off here, sort of, if you will, you know, in the stadium in Western New York of 6,700 screaming Bills fans and the Bills Mafia, but they were the ones to send off Philip Rivers. And I love how DeLuca wrote on here, yes, we have to talk about him too, because we really do. Because Philip Rivers, as we know, was drafted by the New York Giants, and Eli Manning, because he was a little baby in San Diego, he wanted to be traded. And you know, that's kind of how it happened, where he wasn't going to, you know, put on the San Diego Chargers jersey for 1 second, and then they flip-flopped him in New York, and that's how Philip Rivers got his start in the NFL in SoCal. And obviously the rest is history. But we have to say, though, that Philip Rivers has done a fantastic job. And I want to hear Ian, because we all know that Ian does not like Philip Rivers and thinks that he's overrated and et cetera and blah, blah, blah. But, you know,
Joey, thank you. I appreciate
you're very welcome. And tell me I'm wrong, Ian. You said it. You said that Philip Rivers is overrated.
Look, I'll say this much. He's one of the better deep ball quarterbacks in terms of throwing the deep ball in our time. I mean, if you look at him from a fantasy stats perspective, I don't know if there have been many quarterbacks, at least in the last 2 decades, that have racked up as many points, you know, for passing yards and touchdowns than Philip Rivers has. I mean, look, he's an 8-time Pro Bowler. He's 5th all time in the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns. My biggest issue always with Philip Rivers has always been his attitude, his on-field attitude. I can't stomach the player that whine the officials when a call doesn't go their way. And I can't imagine. Now, granted, he spent most of his career playing in Southern California, and he spent 1 year with the Colts, but I can't imagine that attitude would have flown very well in New York. I really couldn't have. I could see, New Yorkers calling him a baby and a child and throwing temper tantrums, and that kind of player just doesn't belong here. Look, in the end, the trade worked out great for the Giants, right? Look, even though Eli Manning, every 8 years that he went to San Diego, got booed out of the stadium for not putting on the Chargers jersey when they drafted him, ended up with 2 Super Bowls, and Philip Rivers' career ends done. But for me, like when you look at the 2004, like that famous 2004 quarterback draft class, you remember Eli, you remember Rivers, and then let's not also forget Ben Roethlisberger was also part of that class as well. He just never seemed, and this is unfortunately the rub, I guess, on Philip Rivers' career, is he just never seemed to have the clutch factor that Eli and Ben both did. And you look at Eli, he came out of Ole Miss. You look at Ben, he came out of a mid-major school at Miami University of Ohio, and Philip Rivers came out of North Carolina State. But Rivers just never seemed to have that clutch factor, that it factor. When it came down to the fourth quarter, could he win you a football game? The only time that he really came close was in 2007. But who was the team he lost to? He lost to the undefeated Patriots. He had but what helped him? He had LaDainian Tomlinson. He had Vincent Jackson. He had Antonio Gates. He had a defense that included Sean Merriman. I mean, look, we can go up and down the list of who populated that 2007 San Diego Chargers team and think about how young Rivers was at that time. But he just never seemed to win a game when it mattered most. And that was always my biggest issue. That's why I called him overrated, was because despite all the numbers that he would put up, he could never win a game when it really mattered, or at least the big one.
That's right, Ian. You're 100% right. I agree with you completely. He is, of the 2004 quarterbacks right there, he is by far number 3 on that list, and it's not even close. You got to look. He might have the best regular season numbers. People who tell me that annoy me, because look, regular season numbers can only take you so far. What about when it counts in the playoffs? He's got more kids than he does playoff wins in his whole career. So I just, it's crazy. I mean, look, I don't mean to trash the guy. Look, he's still a legend of the game. He just was not clutch. He's did not win a Super Bowl, barely won in the playoffs ever. And overall, he's number 3 out of that big 3 in 2004. It was widely regarded as a great quarterback class, but you mainly remember those 3 guys, and he's at the bottom. But honestly, he's gonna forever be a Charger. He had some great regular seasons. He really did. He had some great teams along with him. There are definitely years that it seemed like they should have gotten the job done. It just didn't get done.
And looking back to what Philip Rivers has meant to the Chargers, and I remember when, and I remember I brought up this story a few times when the only 2 times that I was out in Los Angeles was when both teams, the Rams and the Chargers, were announced the same day that I had landed at LAX. Both teams were announced that they were heading to Los Angeles, and it was really weird. And I remember I was thinking about going back there a third time. I said to myself, well, is there going to be a third team that's going to head there? And I remember Philip Rivers was so, I don't know. I don't remember if he was okay with the move from San Diego to Los Angeles, but I remember there was some chatter that he wasn't. And I remember that there was some chatter that he was. So I don't know if we'll ever know that story. Because obviously of his children as well, that was a big factor too, to literally get them all up and whatever. But I don't believe he ever relocated from San Diego to Los Angeles. I believe in that first year that he was a LA Charger, he would drive every single day from San Diego to Los Angeles because he wasn't going to pick up his whole family and move. And I remember he had said, there was an interview with him, I believe, on Pro Football Talk or Pro Football Week or wherever it was. And he had said that he couldn't stand the LA traffic. He couldn't stand all that and whatever. And it just showed to me that relationship was slowly, winding down, if you will. And obviously he is he is Mr. Charger. He will forever be the San Diego / Los Angeles Chargers, regardless of him playing. Only I believe
you think about quarterbacks to come out of that franchise, it's Fouts 1 and Rivers 2, probably.
Yeah. That's really true.
Yeah, no one's wearing 17 again. I can tell you that.
No, absolutely not. No one will be wearing 17. That's for sure. He'll be up there with LT, with Junior Seau, with Fouts, with all those guys up there. And, for him to be able to do that at the StubHub Center for about 2 seasons, playing in a soccer stadium, and also don't forget, as we did say, driving from San Diego to LA every single day is really remarkable too, because it just showed his want and his desire to always be a San Diego / Los Angeles Charger. So really, really good stuff there from him. 8-time Pro Bowler, 2006, 2009 to 11, 2013, 2016 to 2018. He was also Comeback Player of the Year 2013. He was the completion percentage leader in 13. As a collegiate quarterback at NC State, ACC Player of the Year 2003, Offensive Player of the Year 2003, First Team All-ACC 2003, Athlete of the Year in the ACC 2004. His number 17 is retired for the NC State Wolfpack as well. He was also a part of the San Diego Chargers 50th anniversary team as well. Guys, let's keep moving forward here. It is 7-11, but guess what? We did not do our 631 sports update, but this is something that is pretty cool here, is that the Baltimore Ravens have hired Rob Ryan as their inside linebackers coach.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So that is going to be... say that one more time?
Said Rex Fallon or what?
I don't know about that. I couldn't tell you that. But that is our 631 sports update. We'll be back in about 6 minutes to give you our 718 sports update. But let's keep moving forward in the world of football, ladies and gentlemen, because there has been some talk about some different coaches getting hired. And this is the first one that we've got on tap here, is that New Orleans defensive coordinator Dan Campbell became the head coach in Detroit. And this is something that Ian had brought up and said, we need this clip to play on our show. Okay. And for those that are listening via audio, need to hear this as well, because this is something that really is, you don't ever hear this, because in today's day and age, you'd have to have a lawyer on speed dial. But for this, this is in my opinion, before we get to this, is the greatest thing that you will ever see in the decade of 2020, because it simply does not exist anymore. Take a peek / listen.
I wanted this job bad because I felt like I knew this community. I played here. All right. Here's what I know. Just as an overall philosophy, you're going to say, well, what's this team going to be? What's it not going to be? Here's what I know. All right. I know that Detroit's made up of great people, some really good people. All right. This community is strong. This place has been kicked. It's been battered. It's been bruised. And I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. I can give you, hey, we're going to win this many games. I can't. None of that matters, and you guys don't want to hear it anyway. You've had enough of that shit. So excuse my language. All right. Here's what I do know is that this team is going to take on the identity of this city. All right. And the city's been down, and it found a way to get up. All right. It's found a way to overcome adversity. All right. And so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
So Rob, there's no way that's the first time you heard that.
That was absolutely the first time I've heard that. That's phenomenal.
So let me tell you this. So folks, first off, we want to say we apologize for the profanity that's on here from, and it was literally just one S-bomb, but still, for those that are watching, this is an all-around rated G program, except for tonight. But let's be honest here. He spoke about how he loves this people. The city of Detroit is great. Well, I don't know if he went in. I don't know if he took a round.
Has he been in Detroit?
I was going to say I don't know if he's been in Detroit, but I don't know. Listen, let's be real here. How long was it when the Pontiac Silverdome was, or the not the yeah, it was the Silverdome. How long was that standing for? And where there were so many people, there were not even people, there were so many permits to demolish it. And I think it was standing for nearly 20 years after that it was, that they left to go to Ford Field. But anyway, I digress. What I'm trying to say is that Dan Campbell, maybe you were the guy that put some bounties on, when New Orleans around that area. Do you know anything about Greg Williams in that time? Who knows? But all I know is that, all I know is that that was probably one of the greatest speeches that I've heard. And I think that, again, in today's day and age, it simply does not fly. But I love that. Full transparency to all that are out there. I love that. And it's a shame that we don't see it anymore because people get offended by it. And, it's really a shame that is the case. But let's be honest here. When's the last time that Detroit won a Thanksgiving football game? They get kicked in the teeth every single year. Will they bounce back up? Well, we'll see what Dan Campbell has to say about it. Ian Schraier, talk about that press conference, and not only the press conference, but just to see that, could he change that identity in that locker room just from that one speech?
I'm going to say yes, because it actually has happened before, and the head coach that did it is now the former defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Jim Schwartz. Like, Jim Schwartz came in when he was the head coach of the Detroit Lions and was ready to knock heads. I mean, we remember the play where when Ndamukong Suh, shortly after he got drafted by the Lions, was stepping on Aaron Rodgers' hands. I mean, these
and his head.
Yeah. I mean, these were players that, Jim Schwartz was coaching where he just had a no holds barred attitude. There were points where he wasn't shaking head coach's hands, at the end of games. I mean, the thing is this works to a point. It works when you're winning. Like the same thing with the new head coach of the New York Jets. He's all gas, no brake. I love the attitude. I love the enthusiasm. I love the drive, but it only works to a point. I mean, look, Dan Campbell, great. Kudos to you on being candid. I mean, it's one of my favorite interviews in terms of a coach's press conference to open the season. Usually you hear things like that after you suffer some sort of gut-wrenching loss. Instead, he decided to do it as an introduction to the people of Detroit to tell you, well, if you knock us down, we're going to take a kneecap. And then we're just going to slice your leg off while we're at it and just beat you. We're just going to basically beat the living CRAP out of you. And look, Joey's right. We don't see it a lot anymore because a lot of people take offense to it. You'll see a lot of opposing teams use it to drive them and say, look, listen, this is what the head, who was it? I believe it was at the time, Lovie Smith. I can't remember which coach it was that came in with Chicago. My job to win a championship. My first job is to beat the Green Bay Packers. Well, guess what? He had a pretty hard time in his career beating the Green Bay Packers. Like, it's just like it works to a point. Rex Ryan says, I'm going to come out. I'm going to beat Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. The Jets are going to win this division. The Jets never won the division in Rex Ryan's tenure as a head coach of the Jets. They did beat New England en route to their second AFC Championship game appearance, but it works to a point. Once you start losing, that attitude doesn't work anymore. It sent Rex Ryan packing, it sent Jim Schwartz packing, and it could send Dan Campbell packing if he doesn't win right away.
DeLuca, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief since we've got to get to our 7:18 sports update, and we have a lot to unpack still with only 40 minutes left. So I loved the press conference. I think it's phenomenal. I absolutely love the fire and passion that he had there. That's something you do, as Ian said, you don't see anymore because people take offense to it, which annoys me, but that's a discussion for another day. So, my God, your uncle is on point. It's not even close to how correct he is. That is unbelievable how on point and correct he is, but I love it. And honestly, Ian is right. Yes, this very well could change the locker room tempo in Detroit. Are they going to be a playoff team right off the bat? Probably not, because they have a quarterback situation to figure out first. So we will see what happens, but I guarantee you the Lions are going to be relevant very quickly.
So before we continue, for all of our audio listeners out there, my uncle had written, quote, I like it, but that talk doesn't work with these prima donna athletes today. Matt Patricia 2.0, end quote. Yeah, he's not wrong there. He's really not wrong there because you know what? I mean, it's, you know, they could say that there was some locker room problems. They could say that there was whatever, like Darius Slay had, when he had come over in the trade from Detroit to Philadelphia, he had said that Matt Patricia was just, you know, it was just a negative environment. He couldn't keep the locker room intact. He couldn't do it.
Yep. I agree with you, Joey. You know, but sometimes a coaching change just might be what you need. It could just be the wrong guy saying these things. You know, sometimes it's just not your guy. So maybe Campbell is their guy. It's as simple. Maybe he's the guy. It just comes down to that. It's all a bunch of maybes and what ifs. We will see.
Let's keep moving forward here, guys. Brandon Staley, defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams, moves to the other side of SoFi Stadium, and he becomes the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. So obviously not really that big of a move, which is a nice thing, because, you know, I think really what it comes down to is that they made a pretty good hire there, and he's also a defensive-minded coach. And also there was something that he did say in his opening press conference too about Justin Herbert, that he wants to have some dual cooperation there, some dual knowledge, if you will. And we don't know really what that means just yet because, you know, really what we've seen thus far out of Justin Herbert has been beyond phenomenal. And also Anthony Lynn was also their head coach too, was a big offensive mind in Buffalo before the likes of Sean McDermott and Brian Daboll. But he will, I'm sure, get a job elsewhere. Anthony Lynn, that is. So that is not our 7/18 sports update. I wonder what could be. Well, actually, it is perfect because we just got a sports update from the Chicago Bears that they have named Sean Desai as their defensive coordinator. So that is pretty cool stuff there. That was now official, and now they have their new defensive coordinator.
Excellent. I think that, you know, it can't hurt the Bears. You know, they need some help. So we'll see what it does for them.
They just got to keep putting down around Khalil Mack. That's the key. I mean, they're fine at linebacker. It's the secondary and the defensive line. So we'll see if you know, right now for them it's about. I mean, they really have to draft everywhere, Chicago, this year. I mean, they're likely going to lose Allen Robinson to free agency. And, you know, they obviously don't know what they're doing at quarterback with Mitch Trubisky. So there's a lot of question marks surrounding that franchise right now. But defensively, you just got to keep building around Khalil Mack. That's where you got to go. Yeah,
but it's the Khalil Mack show. Everyone else just got to enjoy the ride.
Our last topic in football, unfortunately, is regarding the Philadelphia Eagles. They hired a brand new head coach, Nick Sirianni. He is a part of the Frank Reich tree. And all of a sudden, we thought that Jeffrey Lurie was possibly able to get out of his roots, which was always go back to Andy Reid as a default. But unfortunately, we all know that Nick Sirianni worked under Andy Reid and got some good references from the aforementioned Reid and also from Frank Reich as well, who was the coordinator under Doug Peterson in the 2007 Super Bowl season. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this is definitely, and this is something that Ian, myself, and DeLuca were talking about off camera, that where Ian thought that this could possibly be a stopgap for him, or maybe like something like that. I'm going to 100% disagree, and I'll tell you why. The reason why is because that's not what Jeffrey Lurie does. He is not one to hire these coaches that he only thinks is going to be around for a couple of years. His mind is such where it's continuously developing the quarterback and being this offensive guru that can build these quarterbacks up to their maximum potential, but also to keep them around for a long time, i.e. Andy Reid. And at one point we did think it was Doug Peterson, but now we keep hearing these rumors and such where the upper management wants to control these people, and that's not going to cut it. And that's not going to cut it with any single coach. And I wouldn't be surprised, in my opinion, if that he at some point, Nick Sirianni this is, might get sick and tired of that. And he's never worked for the Eagles, but He does know Andy Reid. He's worked under him, and he is a part of this tree that Jeffrey Lurie never seems to turn away from. And also the players too, which really it hurts me to see that Eric Bieniemy was not hired as the head coach of the Eagles, and especially because he is from that tree as well. You want an offensive coordinator that can most likely build QBs? He was the guy. He was one of the guys that was able to continue to produce Patrick Mahomes into the man that he is today. Also, Matt Nagy was on that staff as well before he got the head coaching job in Chicago. Also, we also want to say that the players vouched for Deuce Staley as well, who has been passed over time in and time out, where he's just been an assistant coach. He's been a running back coach under Chip Kelly. Then he was able to become the assistant head coach. It's brutal. It's brutal to see his name continuously pop up on the radar, and players, most of the players that most likely are not going to be there anyway, to present a little something to management and say, this guy is ready for this job, and how much he has given the city of Philadelphia as a coach and as a player, in my opinion, should never have went unnoticed. But Jeffrey Lurie decided to take matters into his own hands, and it's really unfortunate. I'm not downplaying the fact that this guy, Nick Sirianni, can get the job done. I believe he can. I believe that if he doesn't, then the city of Philadelphia will most likely egg his house and do 10 times worse things. Okay? And they will find out where he lives. There's no doubt about it. Eagles fans know how to do it.
It's not that hard to find where someone lives. It really isn't.
That is true. That is true. But the city of Philadelphia they are hounds, and that's also why, DeLuca, I've also invited you countless times to sit in the Eagles.
I like breathing. I like surviving. I like being on this planet. I like being on this show. If you want me, Joey, if you wanted to fire me, just say so. Don't invite people.
No, I don't need to fire you. I'll just bring it to the Eagles nest, and you'll be good.
God help me. But no, I mean, look, if the Eagles wanted to go this route, they might as well have just hired Ian at this point. They're the same age, basically.
See, you had brought that point up, and the point that you had brought up was of the age factor, but that doesn't really work out anymore because Sean McVay defied those odds. That's the problem.
Does he? They can't. They don't score. The Rams literally have no offense.
Ian Schraier, your thoughts?
I just fail to see how I know the Philadelphia Eagles and their owner, Jeffrey Lurie, and their GM, Howie Roseman, can't avoid, like, they're such creatures of habit that they think because Frank Reich was able to transform Carson Wentz, okay, that this new offensive coordinator, Nick Sirianni, is going to be able to do the same thing. This is a guy who spent only 2 seasons as an offensive coordinator under Frank Reich. Before that, he spent 4 years, and keep in mind, one of those years was this past season with Phillip Rivers. Okay, so before that, he spent 4 years coaching quarterbacks. 2 years of 4 coaching quarterbacks for the Chargers. Who the quarterback was at the time? Phillip Rivers. So he really has not had any experience transforming an offense. I mean, there's so many questions right now surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles. A, who's your starting quarterback in 2021 right now? Is it Carson Wentz or is it Jalen Hurts? Okay, because when Doug Peterson was still the head coach, there was a fractured relationship there. There's supposedly still a fractured relationship. So are they going to look to unload Wentz? Is Jalen Hurts, since he started the last few games, is he the starting quarterback in 2021? Team is also $50 million over the cap. Okay, where are you building up from? Okay, this is why I feel this is a stopgap. And I guess Joey, being the Eagles fan that he is, might have a little bit more insight than I do with regards to this topic. However, I just look, the Eagles have never been a team just to lay down and die and say we're going to be a last place team for a few years, and that's okay because we're rebuilding. But this just feels to me like a stopgap coaching hire. This to me seems like a coach that could be here for 2 or 3 years, lead this team through a potential rebuild because they are so far dead in terms of being over the cap because of Carson Wentz's gargantuan contract that they can't literally spend money anywhere else. They don't need to have money right now to pay their draft picks for 2021. So to me, this was definitely the least sexiest hire of. I mean, at one point, I think we all thought Detroit's hire was the least sexiest hire. No. The Eagles now have the least sexiest hire of any of them. And considering they were interviewing Josh McDaniels, who I think at this point is never getting a head coaching job after, he fell flat on his face a decade ago with the Broncos. They did interview Eric Bieniemy. I mean, they interviewed they interviewed Deuce Staley. Like there were names there. There were proven names there. You went out and got a guy that has 2 years of offensive coordinator experience because in some way there's some association to Andy Reid. I don't know if this guy is there.
Ian, while that's all of that's music to my ears as a Giants fan, that the Eagles are just flat out terrible right now. The problem is with that, even though I kind of agree with you about the stopgap, I think you still the Eagles always seem to find a way to figure out their issues. They're going to figure out to get rid of that $50 million. I have no idea how they're going to do it, but they're going to figure it out. And then because it's the NFC East, you can't automatically call them the last place team again. It's just not possible.
Well, and I'm gonna conclude this. I'm gonna conclude with this. Excuse me. And I think the way it is that there's so much blame to be put on the general manager. But as Ian Schraier did say, is that this team and this owner is such a, he continues to always be, always go with his, with the habit, never shy away from trying something new, never shy away from something, whatever. Like I said, ever since 2012 and ever since 1999, it's always been Andy Reid or someone there that has ties with him. Okay. Yes, I understand that Andy Reid brought you to, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like 5 or 6 NFC championship games. Yes, okay, they only won once under him. Okay, we get it. But with Doug Peterson, you had one NFC championship game. You went to the Super Bowl. You won it. Okay, now you need to move forward. You're in a brand new decade. Let's move on from that. Okay, that was 20 years ago. Okay, you need to move on. Howie Roseman needs to take a lot of the blame for the guys and the personnel that he has signed. Deshaun Jackson being one, Alshon Jeffrey being another. Brandon Graham, I personally want him to stay, as is Fletcher Cox. I would remove everybody and leave them two, because those two are the glue guys on the defensive side of the ball. But also, again, all I'm saying is that things need to change in the city of Philadelphia. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about there needs to be accountability from the personnel side of things. Ever since Joe Douglas has left, it's all been on Howie Roseman, and he cannot be, which is also why they brought in John Dorsey as well as an advisor to help Howie Roseman, because the only thing that I think that all three of us can give credit to him for is that he is a money wizard. He is able to move money around so fast, and he is able to make it into signing bonuses. He's able to push it on to the next season, and he is able to make, if I'm not mistaken, I think they were nearly, I think it was like $2 million over the cap, and then towards, I think, week 9 or week 10 of the season, they were $23 million under the cap. So he knows how to work.
You tell me, Joey, where they're deferring Carson Wentz's $30 million for next year.
No, they're not going to do that, which is why they already. I'm not, and do not say that. Do not put words in my mouth. All we're saying.
No, I'm not. I'm just asking you a question.
Alshon Jeffrey, and I believe Zach, Alshon Jeffrey, and I'm thinking of one more, Malik Jackson as well. Those two, let's not forget, they had money deferred till next year. Okay, and the reason why is because that cap was nearly $75 million, and now they're only at 53. How he does it, I don't know, but there's going to be riveting changes, insane amounts of changes. I don't know how it's going to work. And yes, Carson Wentz, regardless, and that's another reason why Dougie was gone as well, because even if you trade away Carson Wentz, you're going to have nearly $30 million on a dead cap. So where's that going to go? Where is that? And you said it perfectly, Ian. Where is that cap going to go? I don't know. Howie Roseman has to be held accountable and has to be on the hot seat, but he has no choice but to put his math wizardry to work one final time.
Well, that's why I asked you, when you had said he's such a math wizard, how exactly is he shifting around $50 million? It's not as if they're 5,
No, he's
6,
a math
5,
wizard. He's a math wizard, not for the future. He's a math wizard for the present. That's the problem. You also look at Deshaun Jackson's deal too. Massive deal that just kept elevating each and every year. Same thing with Malik Jackson as well. Those two at some point will be gone. And they're gonna be left with dead money. And that's why next year, regardless of what it was going to be a lose-lose. But if you keep Doug Peterson around, if you trade away Carson Wentz, you have to accept the reality that he is not your franchise quarterback. Nick Foles won you a Super Bowl, and that mentally destroyed Carson Wentz in the city of Philadelphia. It did. Okay, for those that are out there listening, all Eagles fans out there, for all football fans out there, this is from the Eagles fan here. Yes, I remember I was an advocate of having Carson Wentz here, and I kept saying he is better in this system. Well, guess what? I was dead wrong. And not only that, too, and I hate to say it, but that statue that Bud Light put outside of the link, okay, at the north entrance of Lincoln Financial Field, has been a shadow to Carson Wentz ever since the 2017 season and has plagued him. I don't care if it's Doug Peterson, whatever it is. There's an attitude problem that apparently he's had as well, and all of that has taken full effect since he was not the winning Super Bowl quarterback. Whether people like it or not, he was the MVP of that year if he did not blow out his ACL at the LA Coliseum.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I just had to pick up a pen. Apologies there, but let's move forward here, guys. The NHL, and now that we've moved forward here, we saw yesterday, obviously, the New York Islanders defeated the New Jersey Devils by a score of 4-1. I know DeLuca was having a little bit of a baby fit where he kept saying, "Oh my God, you guys beat us with a minor league goaltender." But we speak about Long Island, right? We speak about Long Island, and this is something that we need to bring up here. And Ian knows exactly where I'm headed to.
Oh, I know where this is going.
No! Why did I think of this?
Now I need to ask Rob DeLuca this question. Rob, I want to just confirm with you one more time. It's in Long Island, right?
That's right.
It's in Long Island? Okay. Well,
right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Long Island.
You drive into it.
Okay, no problem. Keep talking over there. Listen, all I know is that Long Island native and ESPN broadcaster, as well as the voice of the Long Island Nets, who Ian had on his interview series episode, Kevin Dexter, thinks otherwise. This is the video that we have been talking about for nearly 48 hours, and DeLuca has been trying to pull it out of us. And here it is, folks.
We have one last question here from Joey, and you yourself being a Long Islander. Joey's from Cold Spring Harbor. You're from originally from Levittown, and he asked, as a native Long Islander, is it on Long Island or in Long Island? It's
on 100%. On 100%. And I always laugh at it's really, I guess, specifically Islanders that it comes from, but you just think of, like, people who are not native to here, or other broadcasters who are not native in the island, right? And then when people finally pick up on it, athletes that are like, oh, now, like, I've been here for a while and I hear these people say it, and I'm like, no, on the island. And then that means you're a true Long Islander once you know it's on the island. So yes, 100% on.
You have the family that sometimes when they're from Staten Island, are you in Staten Island or on Staten? No, you're on Long Island. So.
Yep, 100%.
Hopefully for all of our viewers, even though whether or not you agree with Kevin, that ends the debate. But
well, that has officially ended the debate. Rob DeLuca, you are 100% wrong, and you are the weakest link. Goodbye. That is it. Okay?
Fantastic.
Huh?
Fantastic. Fantastic.
It is on Long Island, and that is what happened last night, where the New York Islanders did defeat the Devils 4-1. But there has been some bigger news in the world of hockey, ladies and gentlemen, where there was something yesterday that we saw in Columbus with Pierre-Luc Dubois, where we know that there was a lot of chatter. And I remember we brought this up with Dave Pagnotta and DB Dennis Bernstein about the fact that Columbus Jarmo Kekalainen did sign Pierre-Luc Dubois to a 2-year, $10 million contract, $5 million AAV. And we thought that it was maybe something in the Columbus organization, or maybe it was Pierre-Luc Dubois. I did not get the video of this, and I should have. That was my fault. I as I'm speaking about it, I realized that I didn't get it. So I apologize to our viewers out there. But there was a segment out there on Fox Sports Ohio that showed the lackluster performance in the 3 minutes, 35 seconds. I think DeLuca knows exactly what I'm talking about, and as does Ian, that it showed how Pierre-Luc Dubois was skating around as if that he was on an ice skating rink with his 4-year-old. To me, that is embarrassing as a National Hockey League #1 center. You're getting paid to be a #1 center, and also you're paying to be the franchise of this Columbus Blue Jackets organization. And we heard yesterday Anson Carter on NBCSN believed that John Tortorella was at fault for whatever. But I thought I didn't see the whole thing. I did not see this video until today. And when I heard him last night say, well, maybe Torts is saying the wrong things, or maybe, it's him behind the bench because he's very difficult to play for. I don't know. I think that, again, this has to do with the mentality of the offensive thing here that is really agitating certain people in the world of hockey, in the world of sports. And Pierre-Luc Dubois is one of those that he just does not care. He just does not care. And in that 3 minutes, 35 seconds, when he was skating in the defensive zone, that's a problem. He was not even going after the puck against Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Rob DeLuca, I want to start with you.
Yeah, Joe, I watched this. I watched it. I saw the clip myself on NBC Sports of his final shift of the game in the first period.
He wasn't there.
I did not stutter or typo or make a mistake in my sentence there. His final shift of the game in the first period is exactly what happened. He did not see ice time for the second or third period, and you could see him acting like kind of a jerk on the bench too, just like he's like twiddling his thumbs, not caring. And his last shift, oh my God, he's running into his own teammates. He's intentionally playing sloppy. Dude, you're trying to get out of here? That's not going to help your trade stock. If you're looking around playing like that. I mean, look, everyone knows he's an elite player, but this is not something that you just do. You don't act like you're 5 years old until you get traded. That's going to hurt yourself in the eyes of other teams. And let me just put this on the record. You're 22 years old and you played for Columbus, so obviously you haven't won anything. So where do you even get the right to demand a trade like from this team? You're still a restricted free agent, and you haven't really done anything that special. So I don't understand why Columbus is going to lengths to try to accommodate this. To be perfectly honest, that's on management. I absolutely do not blame John Tortorella for anything he is saying. Yes, Torts is essentially a madman, and hilarious
to say the least.
Yeah, he's nuts. Everyone loves it, but yeah, look, I do not fault John Tortorella for anything he has said, because after seeing the way he played those 3 minutes last night, ridiculous.
Ian, it's something that actually is we're going to call it breaking news here. Darren Drager just tweeted, quote, "My sense from canvassing sources tonight, Columbus is closing in on a trade involving Pierre-Luc Dubois. It's a complicated process that could be resolved as early as tomorrow. Teams have been told they're out. Hard to say who's in, but it's believed Winnipeg is among them." So going back to last night's game, Ian, you look at what Pierre-Luc Dubois did, and I think that he is basically forcing Jarmo Kekalainen to do whatever it takes, whatever it is, even if it's a lackluster return. The problem that I have here is that Columbus gets zero free agents, and they rely on these big draft picks. So you have to maximize the deal here. You have to get as much as you can, because after him, you don't really have that much. You have Max Domi, who was just traded, let's not forget, for Josh Anderson 1-for-1 in the summer. In October.
No, look, that's all right. I mean, I never thought that in the NHL we would ever see this type of prima donna, like, attitude.
Yeah.
That a player at 22 years old, making as much money as he is, a year removed from in a shortened season, no less, from a 60-point season. You know, but he wants out, and I'm not trying to say that the way he performed on the ice should validate that. I mean, he's basically pulling his own James Harden, I want out of Houston type soap opera here in Columbus. But he's also, and this goes back to the point that you were saying before, both of you, Joey and Rob, that he is playing for a coach that demands accountability, that demands respect. Yes, he's a madman, but that's what he demands. And if you're not going to go out there and give your full 100%, guess what? You're not going to play. I mean, as a New York Rangers fan, I saw that for years. Guys don't go out there. Guys don't give out their full 100%. You're going to sit. And Tortorella does not care how much money you make. He could care less if you put up 30 goals the season before. It does not matter. You don't perform, you don't play. And it's just like, to the respect of Pierre-Luc Dubois pulling what he's pulling, he's in the one city and playing for the one coach that this kind of I should say,
I get your point.
It just does not work with. Okay, like you pick the one you're playing for the one coach out of every other coach in the National Hockey League that does not tolerate this. Okay, so, but to Rob's point, what are you doing for your trade stock? I disagree, because almost half the teams in the National Hockey League want this guy on their team. Winnipeg's one of them. Yeah. The Rangers are another one.
That was also before last night occurred.
Well, look, I still think, even despite what he's doing or what he's lacking to do on the ice, is there are teams out there that need a player like this to bolster their franchise offensively. Like, you look at a team that I know we want to discuss tonight, like Montreal.
Right.
Add his presence to with a Nick Suzuki and see exactly what that does for the Canadiens. Teams like Anaheim are interested. The Flyers. Imagine adding him to the Flyers or the Capitals and putting a Pierre-Luc Dubois there. I mean, I think Winnipeg is such an interesting name, though they're interested because they're shopping Patrick Laine. So what? So you want to tell me why you want to trade Laine, but you want to bring in a 22-year-old forward to replace him? It doesn't really add up to me in that respect. Maybe Joey might have a little more insight on that than I do, but this is, I mean, I don't think he's ruining his stock. I think he's eventually.
The reason why that I bring up about ruining the stock is because you have the video, and I wish, like I said, I wish I could pull it up right now, but I can't, because again, we are running short on time. But the video explicitly shows that he's literally skating around and he's getting pushed around, no less. He's getting pushed around by the likes of Mikhail Sergachev, the likes of Jan Ruta. He's getting, and I think Matthew Cirelli. Excuse me, Anthony Cirelli.
Anthony Cirelli.
Anthony Cirelli, yes. He's getting pushed around by these guys in these shifts that, unfortunately, it simply is not. It's not good. And I think that people can easily make an argument and say, well, if this guy, because again, he's only getting paid $5.5 million. And not only that, as Ian brought up, and you made it very clear that this prima donna attitude does not really happen in the NHL. So what could happen if, let's say, he were to go to a New York Rangers, to an Anaheim Ducks team, or to a Winnipeg?
Can I just jump in there for a second? I see where you're going with the question. He's definitely pulling this prima donna attitude to try to go to a winning franchise or a team that's on the rise. I mean, Joey, you said it yourself. I'm not saying that there's any reason that any franchise type player should be pulling this. Okay, there's no excuse for not giving it your role and earning every cent of your contract, but that's exactly what he's doing. He's basically throwing a fit, saying, I don't want to play for a team right now that doesn't have a chance. He wanted out the second that Artemi Panarin signed with the Rangers. He didn't. This is a team that does not get free agents, that has to build through the draft, is not a big market team, will not spend like a big market team.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing. It is debatable when it comes to trading.
Yeah. But you think of like Panarin and Bobrovsky and then Duchesne, all were gone. So clearly Columbus, is in a rebuild, and this player does not want to be a part of it. He wants to win now, albeit at 22 years old. I mean, look, who are you at 22 years old? And I'm going back to Rob's point. Who are you at 22 years old to say who I want to play for? You It doesn't add up to me. No,
exactly.
I mean, I'm not saying as a Ranger fan I won't take him, but like that kind of attitude runs thin real fast. If all you want to do is sit there and play for a winner. Like that works in the NFL. That might work in the NBA. That might even work in Major League Baseball. That does not work in the National Hockey because you just don't see it.
Right. And also the atmosphere is not like that either. It's simply not there. And also, let's not forget, you can't demand a lot of money either because there's not a lot of money to give in the National Hockey League either. That's another thing too. And Winnipeg right now, they also have, let's not forget, they actually just traded for Paul Stastny as well. Okay. We also have to remember too, they did have at one point their third line center, who was going to be there for nearly, I would say, another 4 or 5 years in Brian Little. Okay. We also remember how he got hurt and his career essentially ended when a puck went to his ear and pretty much destroyed his entire right side. And he can't hear. Okay. He cannot hear for the rest of his life, most likely. Okay. He's having problems with his head too, with his mental health as well from this rumors and that's rumors. Okay. But he has suffered a lot from what we've read. Reports are out there that he has suffered major hearing loss as well in that one ear. And that is a big problem. So now they're a little thin on the on the center front. You have Blake Wheeler, who shifts from right wing to center. You also have Paul Stastny, who they just traded for, who's finishing off of a $6.5 million contract, which was originally signed in Winnipeg. Don't forget also, you also have Mark Scheifele as well and Adam Lowry. But okay, you have really 3 centers. You need that fourth because Adam Lowry, you can put him down to the fourth, and that can be one of the best 1 through 4 centers or center line combo in the entire National Hockey League. If you were to add Pierre-Luc Dubois alongside of Blake Wheeler, that would be something. But again, as we did say, a lot of movement going around, and from what we saw here and our breaking news here from Darren Drager is that something could be in the works. But we do have some more breaking news here from 749. Aaron Portsline tweets, told Columbus's Pierre-Luc Dubois will be a healthy scratch tomorrow against Tampa Bay if he is.
That tells you all you need to know.
On the Blue Jackets roster. But it looks to me like Jarmo Kekalainen's hand has been forced, and it looks as if that patient approach is now beginning to ramp up a bit. And now it looks as if that we are going to see Pierre-Luc Dubois on his way out of Columbus.
We saw it with Taylor Hall last year. That is just the way things go.
Big
when you scratch him from the lineup, it's pretty much clear.
Yeah. Big news stuff, fellas. Big news here for Major League Baseball. George Springer signs the biggest contract in Toronto Blue Jays history. 6 years, $150 million deal. I know Ian's not that happy about it, but at that point, you look at that number for a 30-year-old.
What about us? We have to deal with them now.
But again,
fans, we have to deal with them like 15 times a year now. Come on.
Well, hate to say it, but George Springer really has not played well against the Yankees. That's the one positive. Yes, and I know it is a small sample size when he was in Houston, and a lot of it did come in the playoffs. But yes, DeLuca, I do understand your frustration for sure. But Ian, I want to start with you here because the Mets look like they were front runners at one point before Toronto and Rogers Communications decided to up their ante for the New Britain, Connecticut native.
Yeah. The Mets were front runners by every analyst and every baseball insider. The Mets were going to get George Springer. I mean, there was nobody that thought George Springer was going anywhere else. He said he wanted to play geographically close to his home state of Connecticut. He's building a home there. I mean, can you get much closer at that point than the Mets? You know, you see
it's driving distance.
Path, yeah, you see the path that the Mets are on, and just bear with me. And yeah, I'm definitely disappointed in the fact that the Mets didn't end up with George Springer. I feel like that he would have been, even at 31 years old, and granted, they would have had to commit 6 years to him, so he'd be playing with the Mets until he's 37, and probably at that point, at the point where he's regressing. if he hadn't earlier. But I just felt that he was the one piece that this team could have had really to just, really just punch their ticket at that point to considering them. I don't want to say that they're not contenders, but like to really, from a lineup perspective, punching them in as contenders. I mean, you imagine you have a lineup that includes Pete Alonso, George Springer, Francisco Lindor, Dom Smith, Michael Conforto, Jeff McNeil, and so on. This team has not had a staple at that position in center field that can both field the position and swing the bat since Carlos Beltran. You look at how many times during the Wilpon era that this franchise has had to sacrifice at that position. They were hoping that Juan Garris, aside from his great glove and being a Gold Glover as well, was going to eventually turn things around with the bat. He didn't. When they tried to bring Carlos Gomez back, not during the Wilmer Flores trade, but when they tried to bring Carlos Gomez back on a minor league deal, brought him up, tried for him to try to rejuvenate his career. Didn't work. They tried bringing guys from the San Francisco Giants like Andres Torres. I mean, like the number of names that came in just to try to fill a spot in center field with the Mets just has not worked. And I want to just talk right now to the Mets pessimists that are just so upset right now that the Mets did not get George Springer. There are S&Y guys like Sal Licata right now that are fuming at the Mets, fuming at Steve Cohen for saying, you offered him 6 for $120. Why couldn't you offer him another $5 million average annual value and he would have come to the Mets? First of all, I still think that Jared Porter, the fact that the news broke with Springer only less than 24 hours before less than 24 hours after the Jared Porter news broke tells you a little something, okay? Look, it was fresh in everybody's mind at that point what was going on with the Mets front office. I do think that played a role. He was also very intrigued by Toronto. But for these pessimistic fans to start saying, this guy's worth $14 billion, why isn't he spending $100 million over the luxury tax? Why didn't he go get JT Realmuto? Why do we have the second best free agent in James McCann? Why now did we lose on George Springer? Now we have to go get the second best outfielder on the market in Jackie Bradley Jr. Yeah, we traded for Lindor, but like the whole talk was that the Mets were going to sign 2. Yes, absolutely. This is what really grinds my gears. And wait for my kudos. My kudos is going to be part 2 of this, of what really grinds my gears.
Yes.
But to say that, they're signing the second best free agents. This is just a rehash of the Wilpon era. He's just trying to sustain success with this franchise. I know a lot of Mets fans, myself included, have continually during the Wilpon era looked ourselves within the shadow of the Yankees. And now you have an owner that has bought this franchise that endured no financial hardships from the pandemic last year. Probably the only team in baseball now that did not have to endure any financial hardships because of new ownership is now not signing George Springer, not signing JT Realmuto, when the whole talk was they're going to sign Springer, Realmuto, and Trevor Bauer. Okay, well, guess what? He's trying to, people are saying, Sandy Alderson is not a big market GM. He's a mid-market GM. Let him go back to Oakland. What are you talking about? Listen, for them right now, it's more important to lock guys up long-term. They still have to lock up Lindor, and they still have to lock up Conforto. So there's that piece to it too. The Mets need a strong defensive play in center field. Go get Jackie Bradley Jr. They need a left-handed reliever out of the pen. Go get Brad Hand. Like right now, start building on your depth. Yeah, I wanted George Springer too, but you know what? Maybe they'll go out and trade for a Eugenio Suarez, like it's being rumored, and maybe we'll forget about this George Springer business. Because let me tell you, Jackie Bradley's got a darn good glove in center field, and I wouldn't mind seeing it.
Let me tell you something, too, before we get to DeLuca to finish this one off. But also, you have to look at the fact that also Steve Cohen had come out publicly, and said that it's going to take time to rebuild the farm system. This I find amazing, okay? He went back at fans when fans were tweeting at him and said, why did you not trade for Yu Darvish? Why did you not trade for Blake Snell? What are you doing that the San Diego Padres are doing? And what was his answer? The Padres farm system is much more blossomed than his own. He acknowledged the fact that it's going to take years to get his farm system back to where it has to be. He knows where it has to be. He's hired so many people, guys, and this is something else also. He hired a hitting coordinator that was for the Mets at one point, is now the farm director. So now he's mixing and matching certain people around, okay, to ensure that he gets the best possible not only farm system, but he's getting the best possible team environment possible as well. Also, to bring up George Springer as well, I don't know, guys, the big thing that really comes to my mind, well, let's just say, for instance, you actually had Hyunjin Ryu, who actually played very well in the AL East. And I remember last year we were talking about this, guys, and I think it was either with Nick Partain or maybe with the two of you on here. But I remember saying Hyunjin Ryu was going to be an absolute bust in the AL East because this is the hardest division to pitch in. And guess what? Yep. He made mincemeat out of the AL East at times. He did fantastic. Okay? He flipped a few things around. He performed so well with Toronto. Let's not forget also, they're going to have a full year of Nate Pearson as well. Another year of Robbie Ray. They have a decent 1 through 4. Decent. Keyword, ladies and gentlemen, decent. Tanner Roark is far from good, far from decent. His heydays were back in Washington, but also they just signed Kirby Yates as well. Danny Jansen, another an up-and-coming superstar catcher as well. How about Kevin Biggio as well? How about Bo Bichette? How about Vlad Guerrero Jr.? Okay, now you're also going to move Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He's going to stay in left field. Teoscar Hernandez is probably going to go to designated hitter, while they still have a hole at third base. But do not be shocked if they go out and maybe make a couple of trades as well, because their farm system is very good as well. Also, do not forget, maybe Randall Grichuk might move to right field. George Springer will man center field. They've got a pretty good left to right.
Well, there's been rumors, Joey, that Grichuk also is a possible trade candidate as well.
See, that's the thing. See, I don't know if that would be so smart, because they're not going to get much value of him because his contract is so big. That's the problem. And I think that that's the part where maybe Teoscar Hernandez or Lourdes Gurriel could potentially be on the move, because if you want pennies to the dollar, and we all know how the Canadian dollar is literally worth pennies to the dollar, it is I don't think you'd get much. I don't know if you get much for him, and you might get a couple of prospects for him. If you really want him off the books, then sure, then sayonara, Grichuk. But I mean, he's also been a fan favorite up there as well. And I could tell you from my time going to Toronto games and visiting my cousins, he is a fan favorite in the city of Toronto. Guys, let's keep moving forward here, as we are, as always, right over the 8 o'clock hour. We do appreciate you sticking around with us here on the Primetime Rundown alongside my guys Ian Schraier, Rob DeLuca. I'm Joey Jarzynka. We are live right now on the Eastern Observer, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Store, and also iHeartRadio. Please be sure to subscribe to us there. And also, if you're watching, subscribe to us right now by searching I-95 Sports Network or the Primetime Rundown. We are there.
Please do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that would be great. For those that are college basketball fans here, Seton Hall Butler, that game was supposed to go on tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern time on FS1. That game was postponed due to COVID within the Butler program. That is the second time that Butler, the Bulldogs, are on pause. Also, St. John's big win against UConn on Monday. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to talk about that, but that was a massive 74-70 victory over the Huskies. The first time that they played them in 8 seasons, and they got a victory. The first road win in 21 years for the Johnnies in either XL at the XL Center or Gamble Pavilion. Also, they are playing Utah Valley tomorrow, a part of the Western Athletic Conference, the same conference as Gonzaga tomorrow, 4 p.m. FS1. They are favored by 14.5.
I think it's a slightly different Western Conference, because Gonzaga plays in like the Pacific.
I'm sorry, yes, WCC. I believe WCC is the
West Coast. Yeah, West Coast.
Technicalities, you know, that's the one bid conference, like Grand Canyon and all them.
Yes,
that's where Utah Valley comes from.
That's my apologies there. Yeah. So regardless, though, Utah Valley is the team that they are going to be playing tomorrow, 4 p.m. on FS1. That is the the reasoning for that obviously is to get a game in between UConn and DePaul. DePaul's game will be on Wednesday night, 9 p.m. FS1 as well. So
a game, too big a gap. It makes sense, Joey.
Exactly. Yeah.
Essentially, you want it to be, a little warm up, keep your legs fresh, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
with 100%,
this team, Joey, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and also, this is something else too that I want to just step into, even though we don't have a lot of time to talk about with St. John's. DeLuca, I want to get to your point because this was something that I know you wanted to bring up earlier. This is a big thing. Josh Roberts.
Yeah, Joey, I'm going to keep this real quick because we're well over the time. We weren't even sure if we were going to make time, and we, as always, we're just that good. That's why we always make our time. But look, this team wins with Josh Roberts, excuse me. Josh Roberts in this lineup wins games for St. John's. It is that simple. I think Mike Anderson is finally seeing that, which is a good news for the rest of this season because let's be real. Look, he was getting benched in situations where, based on what's happened the last couple of games, he would have been very useful, and St. John's went on to lose those games. But now they used him in those situations, and St. John's went on to win those games. I guarantee you, I don't have the numbers with me right now, and I'm not going to go looking for them because of time. St. John's 1,000% wins more, and it's much better. Josh Roberts in the lineup. Keep it going, Anderson.
Yeah. We have to realize.
I can't say enough either about the play of Posh Alexander because where would the Giants be with that right now?
Yeah. And it's really what he's been doing as well. But also, as DeLuca did say, we cannot shy away from the fact that Josh Roberts, once he was inserted back into the lineup, this team has completely reversed course. Really great stuff. Also, the use of Marcellus Earlington has gone from worse to fantastic. He also hit the game-winning 3 against the aforementioned Huskies, so that was pretty cool. And on top of it, too, that was a Martin Luther King matinee on national television on Fox. That was a big deal in terms of, and this is something that I want to give credit to Kevin Connolly of Storm the Paint and also a fellow WSJU alum. He also said that this was a big deal also for both programs, and St. John's especially, because they got the win. They turned it around. They were down by 14 points. This is big for recruitment because of nationally televised stuff. Yes, I understand that MSG is not really the hype anymore. I think we have to realize, though, that this game on national television beating number 23 UConn, that's a big deal. Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep moving forward here. We are almost done here tonight, but we are going to get into a serious topic here, and that is going to be the kudos part. And the reason why we bring up the topic is because we'll let Ian discuss it, but this is a serious note of what really grinds his gears. And all joking aside, this is something that most fathers most likely will be able to relate to, and especially #girldads as well will be able to relate to this. So, Ian, what really grinds your gears?
Well, what really grinds my gears is what happened with Jared Porter, the no longer general manager of the New York Mets, and my kudos go out to the anonymous reporter. We don't know her name. We don't know much about her, but just the fact that she had reported Jared Porter for the reprehensible human being that he is. And this is just happening way too much in our business, in the sports business world, where, women are, I don't know what the correct word here to use would be, but just where it's just such a male dominated field. And that men feel that because it's such a dominating field where things are just swept continually under the rug, that men make passes at women, or there's just way too much. Just get right down to it. There's just too much sexual harassment going on in professional sports, and that it just needs to stop. And kudos to you, Jeff Passan and Mina Kimes, for bringing this to light. I know that and I'm sorry, just because this just as a father of a little girl, this just really brings up a lot of emotion for me as well. Is just that to know that someone else's daughter had experienced this, albeit that she's an adult, she's still the daughter of dad and of parents, and that to me it just it's just enough already. These things get swept under the rug, as I said. It's not. And you know what? Even kudos a little bit to MLB here for deciding that they're going to actually investigate into this. And I know that she was getting a lot of I don't want to say hate mail. That's the wrong word to use, but she wasn't. It was like, why were we waiting 4 years to report this? Because ESPN supposedly had this story for 4 years. This was her story, and she was allowed to report it when she wanted to. Because you know what? Because of Jared Porter and what Jared Porter did, and because she reported it, she basically had to walk into the office every day with eyes behind her back. And no one should ever have to do that. Okay? No one. No man in this business has ever had to do that, and no woman should ever have to do it either. And because of that, she should be able to tell her story when she wanted to. And what she did was she waited for Jared Porter to finally reach his dream job, and she threw down the hammer and said, you saw what you did to my career? Well, now I'm going to do the same to yours. And good for you for reporting it and for getting this man fired and for revealing him for the human being that he is. And I don't know if this man will ever get a job in Major League Baseball. He certainly doesn't deserve to, whether or not he apologized for his actions or not, because, once an abuser, always an abuser. But women should not have to fear for their careers. And this happens way too much. It's a lot of men throwing, quid pro quo, what can you do for me? I'll help you out, but what can you do for me? There's just no place for that in sports, in baseball, anywhere. And it just needs to be eradicated forever.
So I wanna say kudos to you, Ian, for being able to to say that with a straight face as a #girl dad that you are. You have to really have some empathy towards the other father in this side here, but also the girl too. It's disgraceful, and I think and you had brought up there's really no place for it in sports. I think there's no place for it anywhere. And really that was the word I wanted to add in there. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that really anywhere is something that I know you wouldn't fight me on this. Anywhere this should never be. Anywhere. Regardless of wherever it is. But also for those that do not know, this man sent 62 text messages to this anonymous woman, and then also sent an explicit photo of his body to her, and as the final cherry on the cake, if you will. And I mean, I can tell you this: I know, I don't know, four text messages maybe. Girl's not interested. 62? Come on.
This is also, Joey, someone he met on a 90-second elevator ride in Yankee Stadium 4 years ago. They exchanged business cards and began with only knowing her for 90 seconds, started to text her lewd photos, improper text messages, sexually harassing this woman after meeting her. There's no place in it in general, but you met her for 90 seconds on an elevator and thought that you had the wherewithal and the power to do that without being caught.
It just shows the type of person that Jared Porter is, and I to that point, I have no kudos for this week. My kudos goes to Ian for being able to say that with a straight face. I'm not going to lie to you. But also, I want to bring this to Rob DeLuca, because even though this grinds Ian's gears, I'm the only child. DeLuca, you have two sisters, so this is something that I know may be hard for you to even say too, but you got to also put yourself in her shoes as well. You have two sisters. Think about your father.
Absolutely. I know my father would be in the same boat as Ian right now. I'm even in the same boat as Ian. I mean, I don't have a daughter, but I don't have children. I'm only 25 years old and single. But nonetheless, this is
ladies, I have Rob's phone number if you're interested.
That's right. That's right.
This is detestable. This is disgusting. This has to stop, plain and simple. I commend Ian for getting through that. That could not have been easy. He has a 2-year-old daughter. I'm sure that's his entire world. Would do anything for her. I would do anything in the world for my sisters. I find that out. Believe me, I'm not going to be so kind and straight-faced about it. I certainly wouldn't be. I would take immediate action against any individual that would do that to someone I know, regardless, but enough is enough. It's time women belong in sports. They deserve to be respected. And with that, I will get to my kudos. And it's a simple one, staying in women's sports, no less. It's the National Women's Hockey League. They're getting their 6th season underway tomorrow afternoon. It's in a bubble in Lake Placid. That's what they decided to do. These women all had full-time jobs, but they managed to make it work. They're going to do a 2-week bubble with their champion, with the trophy, the Isabel Cup. They're going to play. That's going to be season 6. So it's very short, but they are getting their full salaries that they would have gotten for playing a full 3-4 month season, which is fantastic news. Some players did opt out. They are still getting paid their full salaries, even though they are opting out. Another just great show of what's the word I'm looking for here? Sympathy by the league to still pay them, even though they're not going to play. And it's not easy. This league receives almost no coverage. So I want to thank people that do cover it, and this is going to be a great tournament. I've been a fan of this league since its 2nd season, which is that's 4 or 5 years ago now. It's going to be a great tournament. You can catch all of their games on Twitch. They have a Twitch page, so that's where you can see the broadcasts, except for the semifinals and final. You can catch those on February 4th and 5th. That is going to be on the soon-to-be defunct NBC Sports Network, but they're going to show it, and it's going to be great. I highly recommend it. These women deserve your viewership. This is a great sport. Hockey is my favorite sport, so it's easy for me to love it. But believe me when I tell you that this level of hockey is phenomenal. You will not regret watching this. I highly, highly recommend it, even if it's just the 3 games that will occur on NBCSN. Give them a chance, and I'll end it. I am a Riveters fan, so Metropolitan Riveters, let's go get that Isabel Cup, baby. Come on.
And quite a percentage, Rob, and for the viewers that are watching, quite a percentage of those that play on the U.S. Olympic women's hockey team also play within that league. So something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, not exactly anymore, but they nonetheless, the Olympians form their own kind of thing. That's another story for another time. But these women all have tremendous hockey talent. You wouldn't even you'd think they're all women the Olympians with the way they play. That's how good this game is. So I recommend giving it a shot. It's going to be great. Starts tomorrow afternoon. My Metropolitan River is going to take on the Toronto Six in the first game, 1 o'clock.
So that is a good kudos. Thank you so much, DeLuca. And let's get to the credits now, or to pay our bills, if you will. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow morning we continue our partnership with the New York Professional Scouts Association and the Eastern Observer, as I highlight Boston Red Sox Northeast Regional Scouting Supervisor for the Boston Red Sox, Ray Fagnant, tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., January 23rd, tomorrow morning, right here on the Eastern Observer. Ray Fagnant was the one who signed Manny Del Carmen. For all of those that know who Manny Del Carmen was, he is when he did play, he was a relief pitcher, a right-handed relief pitcher, and he was one to help the Boston Red Sox out in winning the 2007 World Series. So pretty cool stuff there. Also, let's not forget, also on Monday, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the interview series, and Ian Schraier is going to be welcoming the COSIDA president, Sam Atkinson, and the associate athletic director for communications at Gallaudet University, the School of the Deaf, which is pretty cool stuff. And let's not forget, this is the week of thanking your sports information director. So to all of the SIDs and sports information people out there, all of those that know what they are, thank you very much. And I thank Ian, and hell, I'll give myself a pat on the back too. Thank
you, Joey.
No, please don't No, thank you, Ian. But yes, no, pretty cool stuff there. It is the Thank Your SID week all the way until January 26th. Also, Tuesday night, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be Double Play Tuesday. We do not have a second graphic, but we do have the first graphic. So it is going to be Essential Wrestling Podcast presented to you by Pro Wrestling Pick'em. Tuesday, January 19th, 6 p.m. Make sure Al Carl, John DeConnie, John Smith, Ryan Joy, Tyler Adele, and also Gary Miheffi will bring you the all of the updates in the world of wrestling. Join them 6 p.m. right here on the Eastern Observer and all of the on-demand podcast sites as well. iHeart, Google Play, Spotify, and Apple as well. Do not forget also every single day, Monday through Thursday, Ryan Joy hosts his daily wrestling news show right here on the Eastern Observer, presented to you by Minutes to Bell Time and ProWrestlingPick'em.com. That can be seen every morning, Monday through Thursday, starting at 10 a.m. So good stuff here, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be another fun week. Also, next week we are going to have a double header, as we did say. Tuesday night we are going to be welcoming Bridget Hurlman, University of Rhode Island softball head coach. I will be interviewing her for episode number 51. That will start at 8 p.m. the moment the Essential Wrestling Podcast comes to a close. Ladies and gentlemen, one final time for Ian Schraier, Rob DeLuca, I'm Joey Jarzynka. For all of us here at the Eastern Observer and the Blackjack Media Group, we'll see you next time.